This episode of Dan 3.0 is brought to you by Squarespace. Hello, Pogo Tribe. So last Friday, I kickstarted a discussion amongst the D3PO community about D3PO so far. I posed 3 questions. Has Dan 3.0 lived up to your expectations so far? What would you change about the episode format if you could? And after this road trip, what should be the next big task that we tackle? Now, I've gone through the responses, and the responses seem to be pretty consistent in what they're saying. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share with you 2 responses that I found to be particularly interesting. I'm going to respond to those responses, and then I am going to answer the 3 questions that I posed to you guys last Friday. The first response comes from YouTube username MathsVlog. I met him at the Atlanta gathering, and he's a pretty cool cat. He says that when it comes to choosing tasks for Dan 3.0, that I have too much control, that I have too much power, but he also offers a pretty straightforward solution. Check it out.
Your first question was, has Dan 3.0 lived up to what you thought it would be? To be honest, I wasn't really sure what to expect since I have never really seen anything like this project. My expectations were that we would submit tasks and you would make videos of you doing those tasks. Now, one thing that I did find a bit different than what I was expecting is that you seem to have a lot more authority on what tasks you do than what I thought you would get. It kind of does make the project a little different than what it maybe is supposed to be. A way to fix this is to give up as much control over what tasks you do. A way you could do that would be maybe to hire admins to go through the tasks and select them for you. To me, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. As long as you're making interesting videos, I don't really care how it happens.
So what do you guys think? Does anyone out there want to be an admin or a moderator for the decision engine? Because I mean, I'm totally on board. Not only would that make the project better and add to the integrity of the project, but I also think that would make life a little bit easier for me. But I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to make sure I give you guys an opportunity to provide some feedback as to whether or not you actually want there to be moderators in the decision engine before I add moderators to the decision engine. So what do you think? Good idea, bad idea? Post a comment below. The other video response I'd like to share with you guys comes from YouTube username Allie is Writing. The crux of her biscuit is that even though the idea of Dan 3.0 sounds like the ideal project for cultivating an online community, that in actuality, when we made the transition from Dan 2.0 to Dan 3.0, we actually lost a lot of the community involvement we had. Check it out.
With Dan 3.0, Dan seemed to be giving even more power to his community by entrusting them to make life decisions for him. This seems at first like it should have made his community even stronger. He was placing even more trust in them and allowing them to interact with him and his life in a new and powerful way. I think the issue was that in the past, the community had been all about sharing ideas, and Dan had been placing the emphasis on his audience, being sure to inform, educate, and inspire them. With Dan 3.0, the tables were turned, and Dan was asking his audience to inform, educate, and inspire him, not through sharing new ideas, which we know works in the community, but through requesting and recommending new experiences for him to go out and try. Besides the fact that we are allowed to watch him do these tasks, his videos offer very little in terms of informing, educating, or inspiring the community. I think in order for Dan 3.0 to be more successful and more widely accepted, Dan needs to find a way to bring things back to his audience, informing and inspiring them, and continuing to promote community and interaction.
I agree with her 1,500,000%. See, around the time that I had the idea for Dan 3.0, I was doing a whole lot of thinking along the lines of, okay, I have this massive online community, I don't know what to do with it, but I want to make sure that it keeps growing, I want to keep them engaged, and I want to keep myself from getting bored or going insane. What should I do? What should I do? I know, I'll give them control of my life. So we began planning for the project, and I began getting excited for the project, and in my excitement for the project, I began getting optimistic to a point of being naive, where I thought that, all the community stuff would just fall into place, happen on its own. This project's so perfect, what could go wrong? And nothing's gone wrong, per se, but one thing that I've learned throughout this project so far is that community stuff doesn't just happen on its own. When organizing an online community, the said online community needs to constantly be poked and prodded. It's a metaphorical donkey that needs a metaphorical carrot constantly dangled in front of it. And let's face it, I haven't been dangling my carrot in front of you guys enough. Nah, but seriously, we need to figure out ways to involve you in the show and network you guys together more. And I feel like what I'm doing in this video, featuring your video responses, is a step in that direction, but I mean, we can think of more. Have any ideas as to how we can increase community involvement? Post a comment. So okay, that's that. Now it is time for me to answer the questions that I posed to you guys last Friday. Question number 1, has Dan 3.0 lived up to my expectations so far? Kind of, in some ways. In MathsVlog's video response, he said that he didn't set any expectations before Dan 3.0, and I was very much the same way. I mean, I've framed Dan 3.0 from the beginning as an experiment. happened. I mean, I didn't know it was going to happen, and so, quite naturally, I really didn't have any expectations. But at the same time, I also framed Dan 3.0 as something with the potential to change the media landscape, if not the landscape of the entire world. And on that front, in that light, we're pretty clearly just not there yet. But I feel like we're closer now than we were at the beginning of this project. Instead of, hugging trees and eating carrots, we're now going on cross-country road trips and having gatherings with viewers. So we're making improvements. We're going to continue to make improvements, and hopefully by the end of Dan 3.0, it'll have been the sort of thing that we can look back on and go, man, that was pretty cool. Question number 2, what would I change about the episode format if I could? Well, I like what we're doing right now in the sense that it's totally flexible, but I also feel like the show would benefit from having some degree of regularity. Like, before I did Dan 3.0, Monday I'd do a topical video, Tuesday was Twitter Tuesday, Wednesday was Wall Wednesday, Thursday I'd respond to another YouTuber, and Friday we'd revisit the topic that I introduced on Monday. I mean, it was very, very formulaic. And I'm not saying that Dan 3.0 needs to be that formulaic. I think that being that formulaic would be taking a step in the wrong direction, but what I am saying is that Dan 3.0 would benefit from just having something, some sort of a segment that was regular. So I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. Do any of you guys have ideas as to recurring segments we could start including in Dan 3.0? Post a comment. And finally, the last question that I posed to you guys last Friday was, what should be the next big task that we tackle after this road trip? And I don't know, I don't really want to say too much because I really want this to be your decision, but what I will say is this. I was just saying in my answer to question 1 that, I framed Dan 3.0 as a project with potential to actually change the world. And the fact that right now we're beginning the discussion about what we should do after the road trip, I feel like this is an opportunity to begin fulfilling that potential. So think big, think about things that the community, not just me, could get involved in, and if you're so inclined, perhaps you would like to think charitably. Or not. You're in charge of my life, not me. If you'd rather I jump into a pool full of pudding or something, then we can arrange to have that happen. But just a suggestion, Anyway, that's all for now. Sponsor time. Take it away, Dan with a beard!
And real quick before I go, I want to give a great big thank you to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is a super duper awesome website that allows its users to create super duper awesome looking blogs, portfolios, websites, whatever, no matter what their level of coding experience. And I know what I'm talking about here because the official Dan 3.0 blog is powered by Squarespace, and they have been an absolute dream to work with. They offer 24/7 customer support, they've got an iPhone app so that you can update your blog on the go, and we recently actually just updated the Dan 3.0 Squarespace to make it all road trip themey, because we're gonna use that as the home base for road trip stuff. Check it out today and check back frequently throughout the rest of the road trip by going to dan3.0.squarespace.com. You'll get to see all of the fun adventures that Danielle and I are going on and all of the cool features that Squarespace offers. Bookmark it. Many of the internet's highest trafficked websites are powered by Squarespace. If you want to start a Squarespace page of your own, you can go to squarespace.com and make sure you use the promo code POGOBAT when checking out to receive 10% off for the lifetime of your order.
Anywho, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Dan 3.0. Tune in again tomorrow, and we'll get you totally caught up to speed with all of the road trip stuff and gathering stuff that you haven't been kept up to speed with. An ideal way to